let's help end that negative stigma and let's educate the public that this opportunity is available to solve their problem, especially in Vegas. It's so hot here. I mean, we were booked out 4 weeks on flat glass with 3 crews going every day all summer long, and we could have done way more work. At a certain point, after 4 weeks, they find somebody else and get it faster, right? That's still with such a lack of awareness. Most of the bids I was going on, because we've done a better job putting videos out there showing and talking about flat glass, reaching the tint community, but it's also highly targeted at Vegas. Going on consultations like almost every day. Last, what made you think about tinting your home? Oh, your Instagram. It's like, it's working.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Born to Tint podcast with the Miller brothers. I'm Ricky. I'm here with my big brother, Josh. Second place.
How's it going, everybody? Today we have a very special guest, a childhood friend of mine since 3rd grade. He's a longtime customer of the shop. Now is a tinter herself. We have Heather Bean. It was a really cool conversation where we catch up and talk about the industry. Check it out.
You guys know each other.
Yes.
Okay, this is the first time. I didn't.
Since
I'm not saying I don't pay
grade?
attention to which guests are coming on, but it's a lot of times I'm getting guests, and I knew that we had someone who's coming on who's tinting. So how long you guys know each other?
3rd grade.
Yeah, I think elementary.
Middleton.
Yeah. Yep. When we moved to Middleton, right then.
Oh, I was kindergarten. Yeah, I was the first K through 5
Yeah,
in that
all
school.
the way through middle school, high school. She was coming to have us tint her cars since high school.
Yeah.
And we'd put, you've got to remember, we'd put
Barbie
Barbie
twins.
Barbie
Barbie
on,
twins on my car.
I do remember.
in pink.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, I knew you
Yeah,
looked from it.
yeah.
Yes. Damn.
Yeah.
Not much change.
And now she's tinting. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got to reach out and see if she wants to.
Tinting. What got you into tinting?
I feel like, honestly, it kind of works. I've always done my own designs and logos. I feel like so I've worked with like vinyl, or I feel like it's so very similar.
No,
totally.
No,
Yeah.
100%
And,
is.
I know different textures and stuff. And then I met Travis, right, who owns the custom shop, and he's kind of, I do it out of his shop, and it works.
So you just taught yourself then. So you just more.
No, I
okay.
actually, I went to a tint school in LA
Mm.
to get certified.
Which one?
LA Wrap and Tint.
Oh, okay. I think
I've heard of
I
them.
think I've,
Yeah. What year was
Oh,
that
wait,
in?
what?
What year was that in?
Last year. It was September
Last-
11th last year.
Oh,
My
shit.
first day.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
That was my son's birthday too. Yeah.
How many days was the class?
5 days.
5 days. Oh, there was it. You know, this is me just being curious about how they run the academies, because we're looking to open up our own for flat glass purposes, not auto. But was it educational to begin with, and then just getting reps over and over again? Like how was the breakdown of the class?
So we went in, we got our tools, and basically they just wanted to basically beat in the steps, you know the steps, and then wherever you go with it from there.
So it's like just straight hands on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which with auto, that's the approach, at least in my mind, I would want to use when actually it's the approach we do use when we train, when we bring new guys in. We literally make them, if anything, we just slow down the process to where you're going to start off with cleaning windows. You're going to do that for a couple weeks, and then you'll start doing quarter windows, and then doors.
That probably would be a better process.
Yeah, but I would
That
say
takes time.
that
No, I know, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, even if you're like, you break it down, you're like, hey, it's going to be over this amount of time, but by the time you're done, you're actually going to know everything, instead of like, we're throwing this all at you. And the last thing I told you to do, now I'm telling you to do something different. Literally, I really appreciated, like, because I got the feel, I got the steps, like, I took detailed notes. Like, I'd go back to my room at night and just everything, and write it all down step by step. So I got that, but it doesn't quite give you the hands-on. And I feel like the teacher they had come in, he was a very nice gentleman. He just hadn't been teaching in a long time, so I feel like his teaching wasn't as educational as this. Here, this is how you do it. Now do it.
Yeah.
that's the only thing that scares me technically when it comes to the academy. Like, I know how to tint. I know how to tint really well. But teaching someone something is a completely different skill by itself. And thankfully, because we started doing everything in-house, like just bringing in younger guys, like our hires for the past 2 years have been 18, 19, maybe 20-year-olds, like at the oldest, 20. We have our one flat glass guy. Armando's 33?
Yes.
33. So he's technically he's the old guy. Within our hires is him. So, everyone else has been extremely young, but it's thankfully given us the unfortunate they got to be our guinea pigs with teaching and just slowly progressing. And that was the one reason why
We've trained other people over the years.
Yeah, but
just not as
But
quickly.
if you train the new ones, then they're trained the way you want them to, and not going to come with bad habits.
No, that's definitely the plus side of why we start doing it. Like I'm always still looking for any tinner who has experience in the industry, auto, flat, paint protection, because you might come across someone who is say moving cities, who actually is a top of the line installer, is just moving cities, looking for a new opportunity and somewhere to stick and stay for a long time. But that's very rare. Usually those people are paid well enough, and they're in a situation where they're like, I'm not going nowhere. I'm very happy with what I'm able to do here, what I'm able to make, and all that stuff. So it's very rare. I think we've had maybe one or two in our company's history that have performed like that. And everyone else, yeah, they just unfortunately come with habits, and they don't want to, which tinners are stubborn. I mean, I know you're new to this, but tinner.
I'm a girl. Stubborn in general.
You're going to fit right in with the community, because I still am stubborn when it comes down to it. Certain things me and him argue about installation wise, and which it's kind of pointless because we still arrive at the same place of the install, but we still argue techniques and stuff like that. But having the person from the ground up, you don't have to worry. This is the way you're going to do it. Someone who's coming in, it's more likely. It's like every interview I've given to anyone who has had any installing experience, I'll say the same thing to them. I'm going to see you install. If everything looks good, awesome. If you're meeting the standard of what the install needs to look like, I don't care how you get from point A to point B. Me and him are completely different. We were trained by the same person, and we're still completely different because we were both influenced by other installers as we came up through the industry. So I don't care how you get there. As long as you get there to where I want, awesome. As soon as something starts slipping, I'm going to say something to you, and I'm going to make a suggestion. I'm not saying that my way is the right way, but I'm letting you know from my perspective, I see you doing this. Try this out. I bet it's going to make that go away. And then hopefully that if that happens the way I say it's going to happen, then that most likely is going to stick. A lot of times I'll get pushback. Well, I was taught if you have to do that, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I get what you're saying, but also I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I'm letting you know you keep having the same problem, and this is how I would address that problem. Do you just want to try it, maybe see what happens? And you don't have to do it the same way. Just incorporate it, especially if the problem goes away. So, yeah, you would hope that sticks and stays, but usually it unfortunately doesn't. So.
I feel like that comes to communication, right? And that's
Well, then to me, that's I would 100% agree with that, because then that's why I'm scared when it comes to teaching install. At least I'm not as scared as I was. It's because all right, so maybe I wasn't communicating to them exactly what I wanted or the advice I'm trying to give to them in the best way possible, because obviously it never took. So.
And like I said, I think I maybe have some. I go through some of that myself because I ask the questions, and I think people think I'm giving pushback, and that's not my intention. I'm more like, I'm not understanding quite what you mean, so I'm going to ask more questions until I get to that. I get there.
Yeah.
No. Well, asking questions is like, I think that's the main thing. Like, to this day, I still learn new techniques every time we go to an event, or now I'm even seeing stuff on social media. Detroit Tint Studio. What's that kid's name? Dang, I should know it. But I've been watching him for a while now. And when I first started watching him, since I've been in the industry so long, I might have been one of the early people following him when his channel had a different name even. I can't remember what it is at this point. But he's got, I think, millions of subscribers now, or at least hundreds of thousands. And I'll watch his content of him just out of his garage, live streaming, showing some technique that I've never seen before. And the next thing I know, I'm trying it. Like, when it comes to cars. It hasn't been recently because I haven't really touched cars recently. But like we use 3M crystalline, which is a weird film to shrink. It's complicated. You have to use a whole different shrink method to do it properly. And I've seen him show a couple examples of ways to do it that I never thought of. That I was like, oh, and then I've tried it, and it's like, oh, that does work really well, and it would be easier to teach somebody. So it's like, you never know where you're going to learn a new technique. And I heard somebody say this recently. I look at every different technique that's out there as like a different tool in my tool belt. Like, there might be a certain way I prefer to do it on a certain car or whatever, but sometimes you're going to not be able to do it the way you're used to doing it. And there might be another technique out there that if you have it in your tool, like if you're used to bottom loading a door, but you also know how to top load.
Mhm.
Like having both of those tools in your toolkit is way better than just preferring one or the other. Like get good at both of them.
Needs one and one car needs the other.
Yeah.
I ran into that, and I pulled up YouTube and I was like, "What's the best way to do this one?" And they said that the reverse it. I was like, "I never even heard such a thing. That's genius."
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's that's one of the stupid arguments that ends up popping up, which a lot of times I think it's just tenders just busting balls. Is the only way you could two staging is wrong or bottom loading is wrong. It's like there really isn't a wrong. Like I know
Each their own, right? Because everyone has, for me, a different height. And so in order for me to reach something is different. And so our hand places is going to be different. The tool we want to use is different.
Yep.
Everyone is different. Yeah.
And nowadays there's so many options of tools. When we started, it was like a yellow turbo squeegee, an OFA, and a white hard card that if you wanted a triangle, you had to cut it in half and snap it and then sand it down because those were the options.
As being a newbie, it's a little overwhelming.
There's so much now.
There's
and which one? I'm like,
yeah.
How do you know when you need whatever, the soft core or the whatever that.
Yeah, and then I see people talking trash on people's videos on social media that they're using like a side swipe to tint a door or something because it's like that's not what they would use. But with all the tool options that exist nowadays, like you might have just started and seen a tool that we've never thought of using and use it in that way. It makes me interested to go at least try it and see like, well, why are they doing that? Like somebody told them to do it or they just used it and realized it worked well. And it's like interesting to me rather than shitting on that person and telling them they're doing it the wrong way. I'm more interested in like, well, why do you like it? Yeah.
Tell me why. Tell me more.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Kenny, do you know Kenny over at Tint Chick?
Yes.
He's kind of like been my mentor. He's kind of took me under his wing, and if I have a problem, he comes and helps me out. And even just like literally just the tiniest little things that he'll just be like, oh, if you just do it this way, it literally completely fixes my problem. Like it's awesome. It's cool.
Having that mindset, you're gonna crush it in Sinju. You were big into dance, right? Okay, so in my mind, this is an art. Like that, all the different techniques that everybody has developed over the years, it's kind of crazy because, like you said, you listened to our dad's episode, knowing his timeline and when he learned to shrink, compared to then we had a guest on like 4 or 5 episodes later who was in Canada at the same time, and they didn't learn how to shrink a window until like 6 years later. Because YouTube didn't exist, and like that's how long it took the art to spread at that time.
Well, for anyone to talk in the industry, because the industry was definitely different. It was very cutthroat. Don't share secrets. Don't talk about, if you were with one film manufacturer, you didn't talk to anyone else in the other film manufacturers. If you bought someone else's film, your manufacturer might drop you. And thankfully, that's pretty much gone away now. It's kind of got to the point now instead of the manufacturer saying, we don't need you, you need us. It's like, no, you need us. Like, you need me to install your film. Otherwise, who are you selling your film to? Like, you're not selling it to a consumer to put it on their car themselves or their house. No. You need me, and it's not to say that I'm going to take advantage of that, but at the same time,
It's a win-win.
Exactly, absolutely,
100%. Hearing your answer, it's like talking about going to the school was actually like super useful for me to hear just now. Like what your experience. I've never gone to anybody else's academy and seen what people are doing and how they're teaching, but like your feedback just now, like is already like a highlight in this conversation for me because. Yeah, like how do you approach it and how do you break it down and how do you make it digestible for somebody in a short period of time and then know that there's probably needs to be some follow-up with that. Like you had to go seek extra mentorship and like I think everybody should. That's like a super smart move.
Yep.
So that's kind of like the direction I've already envisioned this going is that not just come for 3 days or whatever, but it's there's going to be a community based around it with the library of everything we teach, and not every class is going to be exactly the same. And we're going to try to take feedback from people in each session. We're going to do at least 1, maybe 2 sessions of people that are already in the trade, already doing auto, to come in, and we're going to do those ones for free. We're not charging because those first couple are going to be for us to learn, get feedback, and specifically be people that are already doing automotive tint, and then we can pour as much energy as possible into helping that transition into actually going and making more money in your business. Because if you're already tinting cars, you've got customers that have homes, and there is a huge opportunity there.
Yes.
And if you have that little bit of extra mentorship, like that's something you can add immediately. And the seasonality of this business, everybody knows wintertime, you're not as busy. Like people don't think about window tint as much when the sun's not up. You just look at Google Trends. Like if you've never done it, go to Google Trends, search the word window tint, and go to like a 5-year time span or a 12-month time span. And it peaks in June or July, and then by December, demand is about 50% down. So that's something that's always there. So if you've got that extra revenue stream where you can email, message, text message all of your existing customers and let them know that you provide film for their home, a percentage of them are going to say, all right, yeah, and have you come out. And if you can come out and know what you're talking about and sell that there, that's like the easiest sell there is. And that's profit immediately on your business. And somebody that can install window film on a car can learn how to be good on flat glass rather quickly, as long as they have some extra guidance. Like if you just go out and try to wing it, it's probably going to cost you money at first because you break windows. It's like, so it's like just that little bit of extra edge.
Well, what I've come to like hear, at least from the couple people I've talked to, is that the step into flat glass, the scary part is what type of film do I buy? Especially with now, probably go back 15 years, glass, everything was clear glass. If there was low E windows, they were in the extremely high end homes because they cost so much money. So clear annealed glass with not low E, no low E coatings, you could get away with a lot, and there was no like landmines to step on. Now with the glass the way it is, if you accidentally put the wrong film on, you could have just broke a $1,500 piece of glass, and it's like maybe you were doing 2 windows. Now you're in the hole for another over $1,000. You made zero money, and now you're like, I'm going back to the cars. So now it's thankfully with all the tools they have with Glass Check and all that stuff to actually know what type of tint on, and then it's just about finding the right relationship or find the right manufacturer to build that relationship with your rep, to know like using your rep as one of your big resources of like, hey, this is what I have, like what can I put on here, and then just having that little bit of mentorship and then slowly just growing it from there. But auto tinters, without a doubt, when it comes to translating installation to where if you just want to, I can like here, I'm going to teach you how to do flat glass, like just to install window film on flat windows, that translates easy. And then after that, then it's got to come down to, all right, who's selling the film? Are you selling the proper film? I always kind of looked at it as, or how I want to build it. You're going to have your entry level classes, and then there's going to be advanced classes because you can't cram everything in to just one class. Like I could, but you're not going to get anything from it. You're going to get a lot of the other thing that you did say, that from the first day they told you to do this, and the last day they were telling you to do the kind of the exact opposite or do something different. It's because they wanted you to pick up on the nuances of what you were doing to begin with to help that in the end to make it seem like, okay, you only did this to learn it this way. And it's like, hold on, you're feeding me.
No, it wasn't the beginning and the end of class. It was like literally in drinking the same window.
Oh, damn. Another reason why I want nothing to do with.
So that's why I really, the idea that like this is going to be an online catalog of every different type of class we do. If you have the ability, you're going to have the ability to message us and say, hey, this is the issue I'm coming across on this type of window. We'll make some content specific for that immediately, because now we know exactly what the audience, the community of people that are trying to learn what we're trying to teach, this is what they want to know. Like, okay, let's make that video real quick. Like maybe the next class isn't for a while and it's not what they need. They just need a little bit of follow-up for this case or that case scenario. Then that library builds up where if you come to the physical class, maybe you have access to that forever. Maybe there's a monthly subscription, whatever it might be. Like we haven't fully locked all that in, but that's the idea, is that not just be a 3-day resource, to be a partner, a mentor.
Well, and also build a community, because if you're going to come, if you're not local and you're flying in for the class, to be able to build a community with everyone who's come to the class, to where it's any question that's in that group, you know that there's not going to be any trolling or just ball busting or anything like that, because we're all like, that's not, hey, I had that same question, and it eventually will get to the point where a question's going to be asked and we won't even necessarily almost have to say anything. Someone else within that community steps in and goes, had the same problem, reference this, and then already have that video shot to where you have constant built-in communication and mentorship. That's one thing that our industry is lacking tremendously right now when it comes to flat glass installers, and then also those type of communities are popping up, but also when you're on Facebook and stuff and it's not complete private, or like having that added benefit of going, hey, I just flew in, spent a couple $1,000s on a class, Like, you're not going into that group just to mess around. Like, that group is going to stay small, stay concentrated, and stay focused on what the goal is just learning from each other, growing, and getting better.
Yeah, no, the other like cool thing that as we've been thinking this out and planning it out that we came across this summer was we got a much better ad agency, dialed up way more content, that's ramped up our lead generation like crazy, and we had more work than we can handle. And the idea of like all the bigger shops out there that are bigger than us that have been around longer or just focus more on commercial or whatever, they only have about maybe 50-60% of their workforce permanent full-time, their guys, and they have so much work coming in that 40% of it they're subbing it out. So if we can also help somebody that's local automotive tinner, like I don't see other tinners in town as competition. I see them as like a community that we can help. And if there's somebody out there that's business is, you know, they're mainly focused on auto right now and they want to learn, you don't just come to the class. Now you've come to the class, we've had a chance to meet you, talk to you, maybe even sit down and do a podcast with the people that come to the class, like really get to know them. And then, hey, you wanna get more hands on, we got a project coming up that we could use an extra hand on. Now you can come work as a subcontractor on a job and get hands on a job site. Like that to me, because we've had a handful of people that have reached out to us that are local small auto shops, because there's a ton of them. And it's like, yeah, that's what sparked my idea. There's a guy that's at a paint shop that I can't remember his name right now, but he's DM'd us a couple times and was like, I'm ready to come. Like, so it's like you have people like that come in, and I'm not creating competition.
You're building people up instead of tearing
Yeah,
them down.
yeah. Well, rather than seeing other tinners as competition,
Right.
the other like big sticking point for doing this for me was going into homes left and right my whole life. I'm talking from a kid. Like my dad started sending me on jobs in a company vehicle at like 16. Like I would show up on a job with like Spud as my prepper over the summer. And I've heard it my whole life, and I still hear it to this day. Like you tint somebody's window in direct sunlight and let them feel the difference from in the direct sunlight with no tint and with tint, and they're like, whoa, I would have done this years ago. I didn't know I could do it. There's just such a lack of awareness for most people that window tint can go in your home or your building. And there's so much bad information out there because there's so many small auto shops out there that go do the onesie twosie job and they don't know what they're doing and they put the wrong film on and they break somebody's windows. And it's like, let's help end that negative stigma and let's educate the public that this opportunity is available to solve their problem, especially in Vegas. It's so hot here. Like, I mean, we were booked out 4 weeks on flat glass with three crews going every day, like all summer long. And we could have done way more work. People at a certain point after 4 weeks, like they find somebody else and get it done faster, right? But that's still with such a lack of awareness that this is even a solution. And most of the bids I was going on, because we've done a better job putting videos out there showing and talking about flat glass, that's, you know, reaching the tint community, but it's also highly targeted at Vegas. We're going on consultations like almost every day that the person's like, I'll ask them, what made you think about tinting your home? Oh, your Instagram. And it's like, okay, it's working. Like, because most of the time it's either someone that already knew about it or they've had multiple homes done, or the person that like, I didn't even know I could do it. And my neighbor got theirs done and I saw it and I felt it. And then that's why I wanted to do it. Like, can we spread it faster?
Yep.
And not look at other shops as competition, because like, there's totally different levels to it too. Like there's different size shops, there's different size experience. Like our customer isn't every shop in town's customer. Like the prices we're charging, some people cannot afford. You know, we know what value we're providing and how busy we are and how many referrals we're getting and all of that. So there's different levels. And like there's totally different markets to address in this town. You know, you've got $99 tin shops. You're not.
And there's so many people.
Yeah, there's
so many people in this town, and there could be enough people that knew how to help.
Exactly. There's too much, especially in our market. There's too much glass in our market to where we could all be booked out for an entire year. Every person that knows how to install film, doesn't matter, auto, flat glass in this entire valley that's in here right now, we wouldn't get anywhere near touching any of it in a year of this going full bore as many windows as we possibly could every single day.
You just
not going
drive down most neighborhoods in town and start looking at homes and looking for windows that have tint on them, and it's far and few between.
Say 10% would be a generous number.
Maybe.
That'd be very generous.
I do it all the time as I'm driving through the neighborhood. I'm just like, not tinted, not tinted, not tinted, not tinted, and it's like,
If they only knew.
yeah. And sometimes it's a whole neighborhood, and it's like because nobody's got done yet. But then once we end up back on the same street all the time. Just the wrapped van being there, them seeing it get done, possibly talking to each other. We have home customers that refer their neighbors all the time. I was just on one yesterday that it's actually, we're on the third neighbor down now.
Third?
Yeah. They're like, we've worked our way down the street that they're all.
Get a permit, go knock doors and then the following winter and like book yourself up for this.
No.
I mean, I guarantee that works for sure because we've in the past we've done it.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
now we're leaning way more into social.
Door hangers.
There's so many ways to do it.
Yep.
Door hangers work like crazy. Like the last time I did it actually was for 2 hours over, and this was years ago. We haven't done it in a long time.
That was a long time ago.
It was when Junior was still with us.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was me, Junior, and myself, and it was over off of like Horizon Ridge, and we spent 2 hours, and we ended up doing like 4 houses in that neighborhood. Like
That was a
it
while
was
ago.
it was so worth it. Like it was crazy.
Well, I mean, technically, that's what is driving this, the podcast in general, is yes, to have the conversations, but also to get the short format, get clips, to put them out there. Is, we're at least doing, I believe, at least 2 posts a day now. And it's the more we put out, the more it widens the funnel of people knowing that you can even do it. Instead of hanging from door to door, where you're just blasting it out on social media and trying to get in front of as many eyes as humanly possible. Like, hey, there are solutions.
I tend to fight social media.
Here's the thing, though.
Oh,
you
maybe
know
that
why
was-
you're.
I only have a Facebook because my wife made it, and then I only have an Instagram because I realized I literally started my Instagram, I believe, last year, is because I knew where the company was going, and it's
For business, it's good.
yeah,
But
that's
anything else, I'm like, but then I'm like, I'm missing all the tint stuff because I can't. It's like it's nauseating to be on there.
Yeah,
The only
that's-
reason why I
I
have
right
it.
now I'm working on it. I can do new things.
Yeah.
New tricks.
Well, here's the crazy thing. You're on here today because I saw that you were tinting because you're posting about tinting on social media.
If I'm honest, Travis does my posts.
Well, there's content going up about you tinting, and that's why I knew you.
Yeah.
Like, so if you stories are great. That's where I started, and
Yeah,
that's
they
where
get
I
better.
like go crazy with stories because they're gone in 24 hours anyway, right? And like, and then honestly, the other thing is like, don't be worried about the numbers or whether it's good or not. Just put stuff out, and like,
excuse me.
if only 50 people see it, then only 50. Like the algorithm lets you know how engaging it is and how much people are actually sticking around and watching.
Yeah.
The more views it gets, that just means people that did watch it watched it longer, so it's going to feed it to more people. That's all. That's the feedback you're getting. So if it wasn't that well done and nobody watched it, okay, cool, nobody saw it.
Yeah.
And
Good.
Yeah. So it's like it's filtering out the bad ones for you. Like, I mean,
that's
if
fine.
you
I
can
don't
even
mind
consider
doing
them bad.
Like putting myself out there.
Yeah.
I just don't. Well, I don't know. It's just anyway.
I mean, even what you're doing is great. Just show like before and afters. Are you doing an install? Like it doesn't even need to be a full install, even if it's just a picture. But the more you put out there, that 50 seems like it's not a lot, but that's a lot.
still 50 people.
That's
that
like how
wouldn't
long
have
would it
seen
take you to
For
put
me, I think
50?
that's a lot, 'cause-
Yeah.
Well, no, that's
How long would it take you to put 50 door hangers on?
Right.
You know,
That's what. Yeah, that's
or 100, or two, and then all of a
Right.
sudden it's
So,
like,
and it's all
yeah,
a numbers game. The
yeah.
more people you reach, the
Yeah.
more appointments you'll get, the more money you'll make, or
Yeah.
whatever.
No, exactly. That's the biggest thing is like, it's discouraging almost to begin with because you're like, oh, 100, 200. It's like still, but that's still 100, 200 people that wouldn't have seen what you're putting out there if you didn't do it.
Mhm.
You keep doing it one every day. That adds up over a year. And then as you keep doing that, the consistency builds in and then it will start getting pushed out more and more. And then numbers
audience
just keep
grows,
going.
and the old ones start growing too because the audience is growing, and they go back and they click through them, and like, so it's like just being consistent. Because I've been harping about us being better at social media for a really long time and not being the best at executing on it, and we were very inconsistent. And since we've made it a priority, and like we're gonna be consistent with this no matter what. Like Jordan went from being a full-time graphic designer and installer to like mostly helping create content now. And the more we've gotten serious about it, and the more we've gotten consistent with it, it's like now it's like it's kind of insane when I look at our Instagram feed now, because it feels like just yesterday that a video would maybe get 100 or 200 views, and I'd be like, all right, like, or discouraged by it. And now it's like every video is getting
A couple
thousand, and then some are hitting hundreds of thousands now. And it's like, wow, it doesn't feel that long ago that I was only sharing stories because I didn't even want to post something permanent, you know? But once we got consistent with it, that just is building like crazy. So
Wow.
that's a huge, huge piece of advice for everybody out there.
Consistency is key.
Be consistent with everything you do, but if you want to get business to your window tint business right now, be consistent with social media. Like, because more people will see you, more people will know that you can tint their car or their house or whatever. Like, you could be the best tinter ever, but if nobody knows you exist, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Oh.
Like, you're not gonna have any customers.
No, I couldn't agree more when it comes down to it. It was hard for me only because like I don't like, I'm gonna say I don't like social media. It's just something I'm not wasting my time type thing, and I was getting my own way. And I finally was like, all right, well, it's for the business. We just need to do it. And then when we had this whole idea pitched to us, or when he's been bugging me to do something like this for like previous 2 years before we even started, he mentioned it over and over again. We got to start a podcast. We got to start a podcast. I'm like, with what time? When it comes down to it, how do we even do it? How much are the cameras? What equipment do we need? I had too many questions. And then we had the opportunity to work with Pineda, and he had a program where you could use his team for editing. You use the studio, and it was like, all right, so the entry now it's just us committing. Like, we have our in right now, and we can take advantage of using someone who has a really good social media team. He's putting out great content, and like, obviously the content worked because that's how he got me in to do the program. It's a short format piece of short clip hit my feed, and I was already kind of following him. I watched it. I know he'd been talking about it forever, and I was like, okay, let's give this a try. I sent it over to my sister. She vetted it out. We got through a couple conversations, ended up getting a little bit more into the weeds of what it would consist of, what it would cost, and it was just like, all right, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And I'm very happy that we made that decision. Like, all right, we're going forward and doing it, because it was, you know, when it comes to not just an investment of money, it's an investment of time. When it comes down to it, it's like, okay, we're going to put this time in. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it to the T and make sure we are consistent as we possibly, as much as we possibly can, because that's how we're going to see if it's actually going to make a difference or not. And then also, it's not just a 30-day thing. You can't do it for a couple of weeks and be like, oh, well, we're not seeing a return, let's stop. It's like, no, we're going to need to commit for at least 90 days and see if we see any improvements. And as we got to about the 3-month mark, all of a sudden, start seeing improvements. And when I'm going to push back a little bit, when you said finding a different marketing firm, I don't think the previous marketing firm that we were using, I think there was just a disconnect between working with them, and then just we got complacent at the same time, where
I agree with that.
Yeah,
no, I was on us, but luckily when we made all those adjustments at the same time.
Switching to a different marketing agency, and then also us getting extremely more consistent with our content, which allowed us to be more comfortable in front of a camera and record more. And like, still, I get pushback from him constantly of he walks up to me with whatever reel is hitting at the moment, where it's like the interacting ones where someone like falling, and then like you do the same action into it, and then you pitch an ad pretty much when it comes to, or pitch a hook. Like, he'll do it. The other guys in the shop he's gotten to do, and he tries to get me to. And it's one of those things, like, I'm starting to get more comfortable with it. And I know the stuff works because I see the guys that I follow, like even Pineda's doing it, Hermosi, like the guys that are at the top of the industry when it comes to like their social media is running like a machine, and it's getting the leads. Like, the whole point is to drive more leads, get the leads into my sales team, let my sales team do their job, and then provide as much training and support as I possibly can for my team. So it's kind of, I have to embrace that and just kind of go with it. And so, yeah, I might make a video that I watch, I'm like, ugh, but it, it kind of is what it is. You just got to go along with it when it comes down to it. And then, roll on to the next one. You never know which one, because that's the weirdest thing too. Like, when certain videos pop, you're trying to figure out and try to dissect, like, what did we do? And it's like, you try to repeat it, and you get nothing, or you only get 1,000. And it's like the last one popped for we had one just recently pop for 210. It's like 210 right now, 210,000, which it's crazy. It's just literally us talking about tinting windshields, and just talking about privacy on windshields. And that, for some reason, that sparked a conversation.
Well,
people
because
share.
it's controversial. This is about tint windshields dark, and the comments have blown up with people
it's
talking
been
trash
great
to each other. It's actually pretty comical.
Oh, it's awesome.
Because our main point in that actual podcast was that we don't tint them dark and we only go with clear ceramic.
Yeah.
But the clip kind of seems and appears like it's saying that.
No, I don't interpret it that way.
But it leads with a dark windshield, and then just it's not very clear. So the comments are people arguing with each other, like I only go dark on my windshield, and then there's people arguing that like it's illegal and you're a dipshit, and it's like so the comments have just blown.
Yeah. Oh, I welcome it.
Well, that's why the video.
Oh no.
That's what I don't get.
That's the funny thing is I like those types of comments now where people are being like that because it actually drives engagement. So it's like it makes it. That's why it's still there. Like when you start looking at it from that side, you realize like why is social media such a dumpster fire? It's because everybody putting out content is like okay with it because it makes like those are the things that get people's attention. Like if it makes somebody emotional enough to make a comment, like they're engaged. Like so, it's kind of like a barometer. It kind of sucks, but that's what's happening.
It depends on how you use it. In my eyes, like I made in that same podcast that we did with Rob, I made a comment which I knew as soon as I said it, I was like, we're clipping this. It was I use OFA silvers. What do you use a red dot? Yeah. See, I hate red dots, but at the same time.
I have lots of them.
Yeah, but I mean,
there's like an argument
I have them, but
Facebook forums.
Everyone, someone is full send on a red dot, or people with OFA silvers. Like I used OFA silvers because back in the day, that's kind of what we had. That was the only tool, and I'm only like using it because I used it for years while learning how to tint, so I'm used to it. I like how far the blade goes out. In my eyes, red dots don't go out far enough for at least flat glass. For auto, I don't think it necessarily matters too much. I mean, I guess it kind of does if you're hand cutting, but we don't. I mean, I know how to hand cut.
The fact that it comes out shorter is better for cutting side edges in my mind. So
I disagree with that. So that's my personal disagreement.
Yeah.
But I literally made the comment and said, I pulled out an OFA silver and said, OFA silver is only like something like that. The OFAs are the best. You know, I hate red dots, and I was clip that. Watch what kind of like dumpster fire that's going to cause. And we released that. I think that one has like 60,000 views. Which it still popped. Like it was still, and it was just literally arguing back and forth about which knives. Honestly, I don't care what tool anyone uses. You're gonna use the tools that you learn with because you got comfortable doing repetitions over and over again. And I have gone into newer, like corner cards. Like I like easy reaches. I think they're thin enough to get behind seals on cars, but they're also strong enough to where if I have to put a lot of pressure on it to get a lot of water out, I can get pressure on it. You know, there are other Tri-Edge just released angle card or triangle cards, but they're like paper thin and they slide behind everything so smooth. But if I'm trying to really press on an edge and get something out, I don't feel like I can get enough behind it. But that's my own personal preference when it comes down to it. The fact that there are that many tools out there now that we can argue about it is awesome. I love.
Yeah.
And it just all it does is it triggers more installers trying to be like, hold on, let me see if I can tweak this and make this a little bit better. So they try to put out another tool. Without that innovation, like it's not going to go nowhere.
Yeah, like a small part of me is jealous that new installers have all the cool tools because I remember getting behind third brake lights and having to use a clipboard because like there was no bulldozer. Like it's like it works. Like it works really good, actually.
Just anything flat in the shop. And let me get that piece of plastic over there. Let me sand it down, put a paper towel on it. You got it. You're good. Oh, the stuff that we've had
in the past,
anything around the shop that is thin plastic, not going to tear the film. I can get pressure on it, right? Did I get it? You got it. All right, let's move on to the next window. Like, yeah. And now with all the damn tools they have, it's great, especially for auto when it comes to getting behind third brake lights. Like, you used to have to, ones that you couldn't take out, you couldn't tint behind that third brake light when it came down to it because you couldn't get the moisture out. Now you have so many tools to where if you are cutting on a third brake light, it's either A, you're trying to follow the law, or you're just not, there's no reason to not, like, you don't have to cut it out. There's so many tools now that if you don't have one, just go online and search. There are so many different companies that make tools from Fusion, Dirt
44 tools.
44 Tools carries majority of them. 44 Tools carries about everybody. So I would go on 44 Tools or filmhandler.com, any one of those
Fusion
websites.
has all kinds of cool
Fusion
stuff.
has tons of cool tools, which I remember running into Nick, the owner of Fusion, in like 2016 when he had the Orange Crush. That's his squeegee. And then he just came out with the white cards that had a point to them. Like he just came out with that one. That was his range of tools. Now you go to his catalog and it's gigantic, which is awesome. It's great to see.
What are your go-to tools?
So for the one behind the third brake light, I like the. Okay. Honestly, I don't know the names of them all the way yet. But it's the long triangle, skinny one.
Yellowfoot. Is it yellow?
Nope.
Oh.
No, it doesn't. It's like a diamond shape. But
Titan, right? I think.
Hold on. I have to pull it up and look at it.
Yeah.
And then let's see what's another one I like. I actually love my Tint Tank, and I have the Jiffy steamer, which I like too.
Those are nice.
Yeah.
No, those are.
It makes my job easier.
So you use a tank?
I use a Tint Tank.
Airless or air?
Air.
Air? Have you used any of the airless?
No.
That's one thing. Again, getting back to the innovation, I love the fact that there's two different. Technically, I guess there's two factions, kind of. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as two different guys coming up with really good products, and they keep pushing themselves to make better products. Because you have Tint Busters, you got True Spray, and then you have. That's pretty much it, right?
I actually didn't even pick it. Travis did just showed up at the shop one day, and he's like, "Hey, I got this for you." So, anyways.
Yeah, tanks are great.
Tanks are amazing,
especially for flat glass. It's that, and then now the backpack systems they got. I like, especially for ladder work and smaller jobs. So if I'm just going to do 1 or 2 windows, or maybe up to 3 or 4, depending on the size, or it's a couple windows on a ladder, the backpack sprayer it's awesome.
Oh, that's an absolute game changer when it comes down to it. Just the concept of it alone, and then
True Sprays is technically not a backpack, but so Tint Busters is a backpack, and I don't know. That's a whole marketing battle. I think it's really cool that anybody's making tools for the industry. I enjoy using them, and the True Spray is the only one I've used so far, and I've liked it. The only problem we had early on, because we were really early, in on getting them when he first launched it, was the batteries had issues to begin with, and it's like he's been totally cool. Anytime we've had an issue, he's taken care of it.
It's like any new product that's developed.
I kind of expected that. He's on, and he's been upgrading the next generation, and it's like I kind of expect that. So you've had a couple little technical difficulties here and there where maybe a battery dies, and now you got to air your tank up again. But it's like, okay, we already know that. We've already got tanks that we can air up. So it's inconvenient in the moment, but I expected it because it's a learning curve of a new product. But the backpack, that's what I've been exclusively using since we got it at the tinner battles, because I haven't tinted a lot in a while. I've been mainly doing sales. During the summer, though, we got so busy that I did a lot more flat glass than I was doing in the spring. But that's all I've exclusively used. Even on bigger jobs, I just bring 2 bladders.
Well, you're using my bladder right now. I got to send mine in. I think I talked with him when I was out at the competition.
Is it the switch? That's what I figured.
That's
because his just stopped working out of nowhere, and it was really odd. So it's like.
And again, it was I look at it. Those are the first generation of those coming out. They're gonna have problems, just like any other system that's developed. And so I gotta send that and get taken care of. But Elu has a new product, which I won't go into description yet because he had it as a prototype, but you're going to love it. I'll tell you guys off camera because I don't know when it is going into production, but I told him when it goes in production, I want one. I'll leave it at that.
You got into the industry at a cool time. It really has come a long way.
It's super satisfying. Like I enjoy doing it. Like when the job's finished and it's like,
What's cool is I know that there's always been women tinners out there, but now that you're seeing it more on social media, it's really cool because it has been a really kind of guy-heavy industry for a long time. But now you're seeing there's a lot more female tinners out there, and That's actually makes me happy. So the only things my sister complained about when she was on here was like,
Dad never taught me.
why didn't he teach me? It's because I was a girl. And it was like, no, you said you wanted nothing to do with the business. But like there was some kind of.
It was half and half.
Yeah, it was probably partially
half.
that.
It
So
was
it's like it's good to see that that's kind of being presented out there as an option now, because especially for someone who's artistic, which I feel like a lot of women really are, like this is a great trade.
Yep. No, I think Dad looked at it as he probably thought like if the kids are going to run the shop, we would be the tinters. Michelle would help run the front with Mom. And I think that's kind of where that stopped in his head. And she never showed any interest of wanting to learn. At least I never saw it. I think she said she did, but I never saw it. And when it came down to it, if you really showed interest, you could have walked in the back and just watched people.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
The funny thing is, I do believe that there's a difference between a man and a woman, and interests are different. Young guys are really interested in cars, and it's really easy to get your young son into the shop. Where, but I've got teenage daughters right now, and they want nothing to do with learning how to tint. I'm trying to get them in to learn how to tint. They want to come, if they even come in at all, they want to help do social media.
London said she wanted to learn, but she's never.
So that is a factor, also. I think. You know?
No, I don't know. It's fun. Like eventually, I want to plotter. But like I want to like work my way there. I want to hand cut first. Smart. It's like I could drive a stick in high school, and I'm like, you should be able to do it all.
Very smart.
Very good comparison too. That's when I would 100% agree with that, because
that's the way to do it.
I don't do weed. I mean, at our shop yesterday, I hand cut 4 doors on one of our sales guy's car. He's got a new car, and I told him, hey, can you leave it at the shop? I want to tint it. And the only reason why I hand cut his doors is I'm competing. Like I practiced 2 runs before I left it, because I just went to a competition 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago. Or was it? I don't remember. It was last. I think it was last week. It's been a blur.
By the time this comes out, it'll be in a month or 2.
Yeah, it's because it was a competition I wasn't even going to go to, and then we were on a live feed or live stream on Facebook talking about. They asked us if we wanted to come on. They asked if we were going to go compete. And we're like, it's not in the cards. It's too close to WFCT, the competition we're going to in 2 weeks or a week and a half from now. And then they start saying, well, we have this many people competing in certain categories. They only had like 13 people at the time that were going to compete in flat glass. So in flat glass, that's what sparked my interest. I competed in everything, but flat glass really sparked my interest, because if I could go down and add another, either try to place high, try to win it. If I win it, that's another thing to add to the I wouldn't say collection, but like just the awards to help stand up the academy. Unfortunately, I kind of did the exact opposite. I went there and I shit the bed, and I almost took that last with flat glass. Oh no, it was. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's. I mean, I've competed in flat glass 6 times before that, actually 7 times before that. I've made the finals almost 50% of them. So you're not going to always be perfect. Things are going to go wrong. Shit went wrong. Is what it is. You know I got my ass kicked. I wear like a badge of honor now.
Well,
when
and
it comes
you see
to
every year too. There's guys that have won before that don't make the finals every single year.
If it was that easy of a trade, and I was, it wouldn't be a competition when it comes down to it. It's hard to do. It's hard to replicate when it comes down to it, especially you get put in the pressure cooker of competing. But when it comes to, like, let's say hand cutting, like I only do a couple practice reps before I go hand cut, because I cut my teeth on hand cutting. That's how my dad taught me how to tint. We didn't have a plotter. Like we were very early on plotter. We had a regular plotter that if you put masking tape on the backside of on the plastic side of the film, and you put it in a plotter with the right pressure, you could cut it. We were cutting out our name, Green Valley Window Tint, in house film, putting it on our storefront, and then tinting behind it to create a 2-tone look. We were doing that before there were any computer cut programs with any kind of pattern. And then SolarGuard came out with computer cut. And the first big project we landed about 100 post office vehicles, where, like, in that situation, computer cut makes sense.
Right.
Like you're repeating the same car over and over and over again. Shaving out the hand cutting aspect of it, even with the fastest hand cutters, you shaved off a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to it, a plotter is just a tool. And if you don't know how to work without that tool, I mean, that's another heated debate. Are you an installer, or what do they differentiate between people who are technically plotter babies? Plotter babies, I guess. Yeah, well, I forget how they break it up. Are you a tinner or an installer? I think that's how literally. Are you a window tinner or are you just an installer? Because if you're just using a plotter, you're just an installer. Which I get what you're saying, but it's still kind of bullshit. Like,
well, I mean, yeah, either it's a lot of work to get to the right cut to the right size. It's not. I mean, so yeah. But as I'm saying, yeah.
Well, a hand cut in my mind is always going to be a better cut. Like almost always, they're getting a lot. It's gotten a lot better than what it was. Most new cars. I mean,
there's no. It's hard to argue against it. You really can because you're custom forming that tint.
Every piece edge of glass isn't
exact
on every car, so the plotted pattern isn't gonna fit as nicely as a hand cut pattern. Like so, but the crazy thing is like I think it's only a small niche of people that really care about how tight that top edge is, and it's mostly window tinners. It's mostly window tinners. Most customers, they don't want a giant gap on the top.
They don't know what
but most customers, the computer plot patterns now are so good that 99% of customers for window tint, it's perfect. It's someone who has like a show car or a window tinner who's just obsessed with it, that really cares about like filing the edge, or cutting it, whatever. Like whichever direction you go, there's a market of people for each specific one, but the vast majority of people are going to be totally okay with a plotted pattern. But as an installer, knowing how to hand cut, crucial. Like definitely the way to start.
No, that's
the best way. I want to do like my own graphics with it too, like change out the blade and use the plotter for the.
So you've been doing like graphics and vinyl?
Just a little hot.
Okay.
For fun.
That's what got us into the being able to cut the film. Was we added. Actually, it was when I was in middle school. When we got into doing graphics, so we got a vinyl machine. And one of those summers, the guy that like convinced my dad to do it and came in as like a partner on the graphics side of the business was a young kid who had used the software before and knew how to set it all up.
Got the most expensive software that we absolutely didn't need.
Yeah, like
but
overkill.
I'm very grateful that he did because that's what I learned. So
so FlexiSign Pro is what we started on, which was like really advanced for the time, and I was so fascinated with it that that whole summer, if I wasn't tinting, I was trying to learn how to cut my own stickers, like because that's what I cared about. Like was cutting stickers to like bring to school, and then he just up and disappeared. At the end of one of the summers, and it was like, hey, we got these jobs that need to get done. You think you can do it? Like I was like, yeah, I got it. So I literally like took over the graphics department, and then we pretty quickly before school started hired somebody else that I kind of who was older and experienced that I kind of helped train on our setup. So I was like, it had to be in middle school because that's when I remember bringing stickers to school.
But I remember this a little bit differently then because I remember when I was about 8. I was about 8. No, was I a little older than that? Oh, damn. I'm trying to remember what age I was. But I remember Mike coming in, and he came in. I think he was not. He had a rough night, or he should have just stayed home. And then him and Dad got into it. He advanced on Dad, and they got into it. And then he ended up straight disappearing. Oh, well, and that probably happened right after that thing. Because like they got into it, and then all of a sudden he just straight vanished. And that's my dad was panicking. And then between him and me, even the same thing. I remember.
Yeah, you would help weed stuff.
But even using the computer too. I remember Dad panicking the fact that I think you were out at a house or something and not being able to do something. I was like, I can do it. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like,
I think
I've been sitting here watching him just do it. Like, I can do it. And I went up there and cut a sticker real quick, and he's like, wow. I'm like, I got nothing else to do. And it was the same thing, extremely interested in what he was doing.
And then we were playing around with, can we cut tint?
Yep.
We figured out we could put the application tape on the liner side of the tint and cut tint off of a regular plotter.
And then computer cut came out, and then they started dialing what type of blades to use, what type of plotter would be a better plotter. We ended up getting a newer plotter to cut the patterns because our old one, which we still have, which is a damn relic, an Allen Datagraph that is from
that's what actually
late 90s.
You remember in high school how I would always be decking out my car in graphics? Like they were so lame too. But just the fact that I could do it. I was taking like pre-made graphics out of what was that? What was the name of that catalog of?
I don't. I know
graphics
I know
had.
which catalog you're
They
talking
were
about.
power
I don't remember, though.
graphics, remember? Because
Yeah.
they make fun that they make your car more powerful.
Add an extra couple
It was
horsepower.
it was a bunch of
Look at this
books
stripe.
of pre-made designs that you could then grab a CD and put it in and get that file off of that CD.
I just recently threw all that away.
Yeah, so it was like I'd find one. Oh, that one looks cool. I'll do it in these colors and wrap my cut. Put flames down the side. Oh, man.
I held on to those CDs for a long time, and then I realized
I don't
we
have any pictures
access.
of any of those trucks or anything. There was no phones back then.
Oh no, I guarantee you we have either like huge SD cards, like when they originally came out, like digital cameras that have it. I guarantee I have one at my house. I remember finding it. I think I've tucked it away again.
Oh, we gotta
Like a
find
camera
one.
I bought Brittany like when we first started. I don't know if around like the first year or two we started dating, and I started like flipping through that camera and started seeing some old photos. I was like, holy shit, you know. But
Yeah, that's wild.
I guarantee Mom also has photos too. She says that she's looked through them all, but I know there's more photos somewhere.
So, what has been the most challenging thing to learn for you? Cutting, shrinking, removal? Like, what's been the thing that's been like?
I would say cutting. Not because my cuts are usually like really straight and pretty, but it's getting it like where it's not a little bit too wide and then or a little bit too short then, and I'm like.
Well, see, the too wide thing, that's the one thing that when you do eventually start using, if you go to a plotter and start using patterns, they have gotten better, but that's the one biggest complaint from people that hand cut to plotters is that this pattern's too big. And it is a different install when it comes down to
That's
it.
what makes hand cut even better. Like, it just, it slides right in so much better.
They only showed us it once at school, so we didn't even use it. So
Yeah.
we just like, hey, we want to see how it works. So
Yeah.
that's my only experience with it.
Yeah.
That'll be the frustration if you make the leap to using one is
Depending which program you use.
recognizing that they don't install the same. Like sometimes depending on the software and all of that, it's gotten a lot better. So most of what I'm saying might be just like PTSD from early variations of it.
Those patterns are still there. I still get my hands
Certain
on new
makes and
patterns.
models.
Yeah, I still get my hands
But you
on new
you
patterns.
learn which ones those are if you're doing it daily and you know how to modify them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you know the top edge isn't even going to be close, so you can extend it on the software and then still hand cut that top edge ahead of time. Like so, there's ways to still use it to make you faster.
Well, it's a lot of times it's close enough to where if you have to bump it up a little bit, you can bump it up enough on one edge to where you're not having to cut from edge to edge because obviously getting behind the rubber on the inside, you're not going to be able to. So at least like you'll get your entire left side line up and then you move up your right side just a little bit, do a quick shave, real quick, shave off that side, bump it down, and then it's perfect, you know. But
yeah,
no, it's plotters will definitely get you close enough to where, depending, I guess, who you're talking to, it's well within industry standard as long as it's even all the way across. That's the plus side of knowing if you know how to hand cut. So when you do have that pattern, it could be the pattern or it could be this machine jogged a teensy bit on that edge. So like the film pushed up a little bit. The ability of knowing how to cut an edge goes right along with computer cut patterns because you're able to bump it, shave it. You know, then you have your acceptable gap as long as it's even all the way across. But then you have the faction of tinners that are going to be, you're not a real tinner if you're not shaving your edges. And it's like not true at all. You know, it's
another tool to have.
Well, it's market dependent in my eyes. You're going to have a certain consumer that is going to want to not see a gap. That's fine. Price it accordingly. I mean, when it comes down to it, a lot of the shops I see that will offer a shaved edge, they offer it, but they offer it for like an extra $250. If you want to pay an extra, if you want your edges shaved for $250, I'm gonna shave. Yeah, I'm gonna shave your edge. Like that's zero cost to me. That's just a little bit. I mean, not it's zero time.
It's time.
Take that back. So it's not completely cost free, but it's more of time. But there's no extra material added to it. It's just a little extra time. It's like sure, why not? I mean, same thing with like the things we're running into with Cybertrucks, like doing PPF on Cybertrucks. We've done one in full color. We've done one in matte. The one in full color, we offered to wrap the edge. We wrapped the edge. We later on saw a video of another company offering, actually it was Mike from AFS, saying that he offers it two ways, which I didn't even think, like when he's like, when it comes down to it, this is what it costs to do it in PPF and color PPF. And if you want your edges wrapped, it's an extra $1,000. And it's like, instantly implement that. Like I'm instantly gonna implement that to show. I'm gonna show my customers what a shaved edge looks like. That's what the exposed metal is gonna look like. If you're cool with that, we're good to go. If you want it wrapped, it's gonna be an extra $1,000. I'm gonna need your car for an extra for a little bit extra time. to do it that way. Because like with the matte PPF, doing that one, it was so much easier because we squeeged it to the edge, shaved it right to the metal, and then you went on to the next panel. We did one, I think, almost in 6 hours around that. Like we started it I think at like around 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and then by like 3 o'clock it was done. And it was like not even me and Jordan completely devoting. Like his time was completely dedicated to it. I was jumping in and helping with sections. If my time would have been completely dedicated to it, I think we could literally do one in about 4 hours in clear. Wrapping the edges, that's in my eyes, it's at least a 2-day process. If you have 2 installers doing it together, it's a 2-day process, at least.
So I'm not even going to ask, you haven't ventured into PPF, or have you?
Not really. I've been playing a little bit with the interior trim on my car.
Okay.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
And then the black was cracking on the outside of my car, so I had some Travis had some race car vinyl at the shop.
Okay.
And I made it look good again. It's kind of fun.
Oh, that's what I wrapped my truck for that sole reason. I bought a 09 Tacoma, and the paint was, the guy was completely honest. I'm just a dumbass. He put in there desert pinstripes. I was like, I'm looking at the car. I see it on the pictures. I'm like, that's just one color. Like, oh, all right. I kind of like looked past. Yeah. Oh, see? Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's what the truck, one of the first owners, he had it for about 100,000 miles. And that's what he used it for. He had a 50-acre property. And that's what he used it for, is that. And like,
oh, is that scratches?
The scratches along.
From the trees and the bushes.
Yeah.
So like I saw it when the guy pulled up, because he came from Utah. He pulled up into the parking lot of the shop, and like I'm looking, I'm like, you mother, what the? And then like I kind of like I didn't say anything, and I thought about it, and I went back and read the description again. I'm like, and then it clicked, and I was like, I'm a dum dum. I was like, all right, never mind. So I had texture wrap left over from previous customers. So I wrapped the bottom half of the truck in like a textured pattern, and I wrapped the top half of the truck in a matte black. Can't see any of it now. I mean, if you get up close, you can see the kind of some of the dents and some of the deeper scratches, but still can't see any of it now. It worked great, but yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that went right over the top of my head. And
it took me a minute to realize while you were still talking. I was like, oh, that's scratches.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, I bought the truck though to be a truck, 4-wheel drive, and be able to get me where I want. And it's my Tacoma. I know it's gonna run when it comes down to it. So I was completely fine with it. I was very happy with the find. So very happy.
Shrinking. How do you shrink? Are you wet shrinking, dry shrinking? Do you not do both?
I do both.
Okay.
Smart.
Good answer. I like it.
Yep.
All right.
At the school, they did not teach me to use the heat gloves, but Kenny showed me how to use that, and I really like that.
Yeah, that's
a preference
It's
thing.
preference.
I mean, I use it until like a point, and
Yeah.
then I use it to make it like sleek.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I've used gloves before. It's one of those things. It's what you're comfortable with.
Shrinking.
You can work You can work faster, I think, with working it down if you're working it little by little with a heat glove for a certainty.
It's one of my favorite things about automotive tint is shrinking. That's one of my favorite things that I've always played with over the years. So it's like anytime I see someone doing it a different way, I'm immediately like trying it and testing it. And it's funny, when we went to tinner battles, I think I was in like 3 rounds. All 3 times, it was 3 or 4. I had a couple people
made
DQ.
it to 2. Or did you make it to the 3rd?
I made it to.
Oh, you made you
2 people
made it
DQ.
to 3.
I shrunk 3 windows, and I actually want to go find that footage and look at it because all 3 times it's the same windshield, and all
Tesla
3
Model
times
3.
I attacked it a totally different way. Like I used different methods, and they even commented on it. So it's like every time I did it a different way because I have all those tools in my tool belt, and it was like sometimes I just like to, I don't know, be creative with shrinking.
Well, I think you're trying to get faster too.
Yeah.
You're thinking like, let me try to do it this
I was
way.
definitely trying to get faster, but I'd use different techniques in order to do it. And then the one of the times they didn't bounce it really well in between, and it was sticking. So that's like the reason why I switched it up. Like I could have panicked and been like, oh, the way I was trying to do it's not working. Instead, I lifted it and started pull shrinking because it was sticking. So it was like, that was the reason I did it. It wasn't just because I was doing it, but it was because I came across an obstacle that required me to know a different way to do it without having to reset it. And you're in a race because it was head. You had one person on a car right here, one person on a car right here. Whoever's done first wins. So it was like that competition part of it. Like all you're thinking about is go fast. So it's like in the shop scenario, I might have pulled it off, rebounced it if I really cared enough to do it the way I initially planned on attacking it. But just having that tool in my tool belt was just like, okay, I can. So it's like, I'm not in the camp of like picking one way or the other.
Oh no, they both have their um, applications when it comes down to it. They both have like wet shrinking is definitely something where someone that doesn't know it. I mean, not saying that you're technically less of a tinter, but when it comes down to it, it's definitely a method you want to learn. You will there'll be hardly any times that you kind of use it, but when that time comes along to do wet shrinking, like to me, a lot older vehicles, if you get the older muscle cars and stuff like that, I'm wet shrinking almost all those. I'm hand cutting, obviously, I'm hand cutting to the vehicle itself, but to me, it's so much easier to just wet shrink. It's easier to have the flexibility of putting more heat on the window because the water's there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely one of those things. Like the fact that you said that you wanted to do hand cutting before computer cut, genius. Like that is something you definitely want to pick up and learn. And the fact that you're doing both shrinking methods, again, genius. It's two staging and bottom loading. It's, I mean, pulling seals, not pulling seals. Being able to do all of it is only going to help you find the solution for that project that much better and be able to use all your tools in your toolbox.
The funny thing is we're narrowing it down too narrow even because like when you're wet shrinking, are you going from the top of the finger down or are you starting at the bottom of the finger and then coming down? Because that's the other thing is like there's so many different ways to do it.
Top to bottom.
Okay, so I thought that was the only way to do it for the longest time. And then when I was in Texas, right after I got out of the Army, as I was a sales rep for American Standard, one of the shops that I went to, the guy was wet shrinking a back window, and he was going from the bottom of the finger, and then he'd go to the top of it. And I watched him shrink a back window in like 3 minutes wet, and I was like, "What did you just do?" Like I didn't even know that was possible. Like it's kind of wild. So, and now I've seen a bunch of people do that. That method, I'll use it every now and then because
That's bubble shrinking.
Well, they said sometimes like at the school they said if it starts to like get too tight or whatever, just heat it from the bottom. It'll like whatever.
Yeah. So there's like there's a really cool way. Like there's got to be videos that are already out there, and if there's not, maybe we'll play around and make one.
What it is when you're hitting it from the bottom because you're going from the top, and all of a sudden you get to that pinching spot. What it is you're releasing the tension from different areas by putting tension on the bottom, so it's pulling in a different direction, so it's allowed to distribute across the tint better.
Yeah, it's just like when you shrink crystalline, you float it, you get heat underneath it, and then you shrink and lock down the bottom edge because the film doesn't shrink as much, especially on a harder window. There's some windows you can shrink it traditionally, but ideally, by locking down the bottom edge, you're giving that area that has the most curve the most ability to shrink and form, and that tension gets dispersed up to the area of the window that's flatter. So all of a sudden now that bottom edge is locked down, and now you just have a pocket to heat up. And it's like after having seen that, and then see the wet shrink version of that, because that's all that is. When you wet shrink from the bottom of the pocket, if you make your finger the right size, same thing. You heat down the bottom, past the bottom edge, maybe like an inch on each direction. Once that locks down, you just then come to the top of the finger and work your way down it, and then the whole thing just cards right out and you're done. So it's crazy. So it's like it's a hack that kind of has happened in dry shrinking and wet shrinking. That's basically what that is, right?
Oh, no, yeah, it's exactly what that is. No, it's 100%.
So it's like there's even nuance to like all of and what windows require that or it would help with is like that's the real art of like in my mind not being there's one way to do it and I can do it on everything because not every back window is the same. Like some windows require you to do it differently.
Absolutely.
That's why I mean it comes back to why you guys are doing this. It's cool. Like you bring people in, everyone shares different like tricks, and it's like opening the floodgates for everyone. That's really neat.
Oh no, that's the other huge driving force behind this is that I mean we've come up in the industry when like I said it was cutthroat, and now it seems like with the help of that man,
definitely.
Eric from Tint he has definitely helped guide the way, or at least guide or start the way of
showed a different way of doing it.
Yeah, and
he's really treated one of the biggest communities in the industry in my mind.
Technically,
that's like a resource and a tool.
Well, because literally he ties. If you go around, because you have your different like Facebook groups, and then you have your different competitions. The one consistent thing behind all of it, besides the manufacturers kind of migrate to where they need to, is Eric and Tint and also he's a huge driving force of trying to grow the like we can help each other. There's no reason to be going at each other. Let's prop each other up. And then even when it comes to like content stuff like that, he's constantly encouraging us to keep going, do more, put out more. You know, like even when it comes to the small little like me and him, like I bust his balls constantly about second place. I do it just because it's funny, and also I know it's going to drive attraction. And also gets under your skin a little bit.
It doesn't
too.
get under my skin at all.
Yeah, it does.
The first time
I live rent free.
So he first won WSCT Architectural in 2015, and even then I would tell people like, yeah, my little brother, who like, and I would even throw in that I helped train a little bit, is the best tinter in the world. And then in 2018 he took first and I took second, and like, yeah, I wanted to win, but like, that's a win. Like, our company just won first and second together, and it's my little brother. Like, if my little brother's the only person that was at that competition that year that beat me, like, I can go brag about that. I'm okay with it. It's fine.
I've done the same thing.
So
I'm
like,
on the other
he
side of the
thinks
coin.
it
Though.
gets
I'm
under
sorry.
my skin, but I just like playing
He's just
back.
being a little brother. I have one too.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're all-
No, the best part was in 2022 where we were going back and forth who was going to go to the competition, and then I ended up making the executive decision, like, no, you go, I'll stay. Because when it comes down to it, where our company was at the time, like, I get paid to run the company. I don't get paid to go compete. Competing's fun. When I get to go compete and go network and have fun with people I don't get to see during the year, across different people we made friends with, I enjoy it. But at the same time, my main priority is the company. So, and
He
like,
was afraid he was going to lose them.
oh yeah. 2 weeks after that competition, we had a dealer meeting with one of our main manufacturers, Solar Guard, our Panorama meeting that we have every year. I said, all right, no, fine. You go compete. I'm going to go to the Panorama meeting because at that time, like, I needed to further myself in the business side. Like, we were at a point where there were numerous questions I did have for, I know the bigger companies that we are in the same network, that I wanted to go ask these questions of like, hey, these are the problems or issues I'm having. Did you have the same growing pains? How do I get past them and stuff like that? So it was more like I looked at him and said, all right, no, you're going to go compete. I'm going to go to this, but you better bring that trophy home. He did. So, and believe me, I was watching the Facebook Live when they were doing the ceremony. Like, I wish I was there. It sucked not being there, not to see and witness that. I hated it, but and then
I'm glad I live in your mind.
Yeah.
I threw it back at you.
the me being proud of my older brother. I'm sorry. But no, and then thankfully we were able in 23 we got to compete against each other again, and then thankfully I was able to pull it out, and where we're able to say as a company we've won back to back. We won 2020 and 2023, and I wasn't going to compete this year. I was gonna actually judge, and then I just got berated by him, my wife, and everyone else. Like, no, you should go compete. You got to defend your title. And then other friends I have in the industry too, like, oh, you're not going to go defend your title? And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go. I'll go compete again. And I got to thankfully get on the other side of the coin this past competition because unfortunately I performed so horribly in the first round and I got knocked out of flat glass in the finals. One of the judges was competing in the auto finals. So he had to go compete and they were down a judge. So like, I knew the guy that was running the competition at the time. I said, hey man, I'll step in and judge if you want me to. He's like, dude, would you? And I was like, hell yeah, I would. So I got to actually be a part of the process where I let the other two judges, like, because they were already, obviously they judged the rest of the competition. I told them, hey, I'll be here to help point things out. If you guys want my opinion, let me know. Otherwise, I'll let you guys, however you've been scoring it, score it your way. I don't want to influence what's going on because they were very much more open competition where the judging, like, I watched every single person compete in the finals. Like, I know who did what window. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to sit there and look at someone's window like, oh, I'm going to mark this because I don't want you to win. Like, I don't care. I want the best window to win. I want to prop up the best installer I possibly can. And it was fun getting on the other side of the coin and judge some windows and actually see some things. If anything, I think it helps me even more when it comes to compete because now, like, I really kind of got to see what the judges are kind of, or at least those judges were looking at and trying to point out, which I know this year, I believe in flat glass, we're going to have a couple of past competitors are going to actually be the judges. So I kind of know what they're going to be looking for. And I know what areas that if I see something, just let it lie and is what it is and try to make everything else perfect. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. I do look forward to eventually just judging the competitions. And then I also really look forward to someone that I trained, which us definitely opening the academy will help us broaden that funnel of people that we have had an influence on training. I want one of my guys to go win. Like, we're bringing a guy this year. Like, if I lose to anyone, I'll lose to him because then it's like, dude, we trained you and then you beat us. Hell yeah, that's all right. So we're doing something right, I guess. So that makes me happy. So that's what I look forward to. My dad's got to experience it now a couple times. And the fact that I've won a couple times, he's won. Like, and he's trained both of us. So yeah, so that's where I can't wait to be at that point where one of my guys win. That's my next big goal. Like, if me going to win, I enjoy it. It's fun competing. I think maybe I have a year or two because I'm just not installing enough. And when it comes down to, if you're not doing it, a lot of the guys that are the owner operators I've known for a long time, they're the main installer in their company. They're installing constantly. My installing has dropped off. I look at in our app how many jobs I've been scheduled to install on. It's sent from like a year and a half ago. It's nosedived. 2 years ago, it probably at a certain point, and it's just done nothing but gone straight down. So I know competing for me will eventually end, and then I'll get the judge, and then hopefully one of my guys eventually gets the win.
Yeah, no, that's the thing I'm most excited about, is to see somebody we've trained win. And yeah, I don't know, just keep helping grow the industry.
Yeah.
Whether it's here in Vegas or anywhere. I truly believe that there's no like real like competition between businesses out there in my mind. There's way too much glass to install, especially on the flat glass side of the house. And you like look at the numbers,
Even
the
cars too,
square
man.
footage. Yeah, on everything.
Think about cars. How many cars are out there?
But
I
like,
think that the fight over the pool of people that do know the industry are reaching out to sit there and squabble back and forth about it. It's crazy.
There's always new cars being bought and made, and yeah, what I mean though is, like, statistically, number wise, there's less people dedicated to flat glass, and there's more square footage and potential for growth. So it's like there's even less competition there. So it's like it's kind of a win-win, and the ability to get other installers in town that are passionate about the industry and want to learn, trained up, and a possible resource for subcontracting work that's also benefiting them. Like, I don't know, that part I'm really excited about, because that's where I think the business can grow, and we can just make the customer awareness that much more. Because say you start doing flat glass and you start posting content of you doing it, that's creating more awareness with more people that they can even tint their house. And sometimes like, I know for a fact the content we're generating isn't just benefiting us. Like, there's people that are getting turned on the idea of tinting their house that then go search Google. They might not click on us, and then they click on somebody else, and that creates more work for them. And that just means the industry's stronger. And if everybody's busier, we're not fighting each other over prices. It's not like a war to the bottom on pricing, because demand's high. So the more people that are out there doing it, you're just going to help increase the demand, and there's different levels of the market. So it's like, if you look at it that way, like, okay, cool, let's go help as many people as possible and really try to help grow the entire industry. Because I mean, it's been our entire life. So it's really cool to like talk to someone who's like just getting into it. That's been the other really cool thing about the competition. There's a lot of new installers that have been coming to them, not even necessarily to compete, just to come and realize to mingle and stuff. So if you get a chance in the next year, Tinner Battles, WFR Reunion, and WFCT are highly worth it. Highly worth it. Just the amount of knowledge in those rooms, if you're willing to just go talk to people, and everybody's willing to share. So it's huge. That would be like one tip I'd give to anybody out there that's new.
Oh, I've furthered my installation skills faster by going to compete and starting competing. Like, I grew as an installer way more, I think, after competing, because seeing people do it a different way, and then seeing them do it at an extremely high quality a different way, and not pulling this guy, but like, walking up to him, having a conversation, asking him, like, hey, why did you do that? And for the most part, almost everybody there, especially now, majority of the competitions now, you might run into one or two people that are going to be a little standoffish, but majority of everyone, they're going to sit there and they'll have a conversation with you, and then you get to pick their brain, and it's like the amount of knowledge that's in that room is in my mind, you can't put a price tag. That's the reason to go compete, is that, like, obviously winning is cool, getting first place, awesome, prize money, oh, that's cool too, but the amount of knowledge in that room and that's from coast to coast. You got people from the West, people from the East that have started they're in the industry for almost 30 plus years, that you can't put a price tag on their knowledge.
All the classes there.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's not just the competition. There's also like dedicated sessions for people to talk on. Like you're doing marketing this year.
I guess social media, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
They reached out to me and they were like, I thought it was a Q&A to begin with. And then after realizing that I was like 2 days away from a deadline to turn in a presentation, I was like, oh, you need a presentation. My bad. But I had put a presentation together, and then just it won't be hard for me to talk about because it's just going to be pretty much me describing the journey of us starting this podcast, investing a lot more into our social media, into Meta, into AdWords, and then just showing the data. Like we can pull up our analytics on our app and just show like, this is where we were, this is where we are now, and go from last year to this year. The main thing that changed is that we diverted a bunch of money to our social media, and it's not even like we're spending more money. We're actually spending less than we spent last year per month. It's just we looked into dialing in the content, and then also the paid AdWords too, like finding a agency that we saw eye to eye with, and just we clicked with them, and it's just all that together accumulated in our leads going through the damn roof.
Well, and this kind of circles back to earlier you calling me out on the marketing thing. The one thing that I think I've realized is when the ad agency we had before, they did a good job. When we first started with them, our leads went up and we got crazy busy, but we weren't creating enough volume of organic content to refresh those ad campaigns, because those same ads are only going to work so good for so long.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I think we really dialed in with the new ad agency, is that as we make new content and as the algorithm shows them what's doing well, they're immediately turning that into new ads. So when a video pops, you're going to start seeing it run as an ad, which is actually something Gary Vee talks about. And he's going to be a guest speaker at WFCT this year, which I'm really excited about.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
So
but
hopefully we can corner him for a 5-minute conversation and record it and then post it. We'll see.
Do you follow him at all, or who do you follow in the industry already? You said you go to YouTube.
I don't really. I mean,
No,
I search whatever I'm looking for at the time and find it.
So like YouTube and just search, and
there's a lot of content out there for that.
yeah, there's so much now, especially for the automotive side. That's the other thing I'm really excited about, is with the academy setup, we're going to have a space with all the different styles of windows you could possibly come across, and creating that content.
Maybe not all, but
Well,
the majority of the
most.
ones you run into.
Yeah.
At least, I mean,
We can make
we're gonna
specific
try.
videos in the paid community where that'll be more specific. But for the most part, being able to put more flat glass content out for people that are trying to search it, I'm excited about that, because it's mainly auto heavy when you go to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the stuff I found on flat glass, it's not been.
I couldn't find much on YouTube.
Yeah, there's not a
No,
lot.
there's not.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
No, there's not a lot. But would you be interested in doing a flat glass class?
Absolutely.
We would love to have you within the first 2 classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna say that anyways, but
Beat you to it.
yeah.
Well, no, to me, I would love to have you're the category of people that we're looking to go after. Someone who knows auto. I mean, I know that you're still new to auto, but you still know what you're doing when it comes down to it. Me, with what you know right now, teaching you to do flat glass in my eyes is the first initial group of people that we're going after. You understand how to handle the film, peel the film, solutions of getting it to tack, squeegeeing, making sure you get enough water out, like the small things or the main staples, the basics of tinning, you already know. Now it's just understanding, all right, with flat glass, what side do you want to lay first, how are you going to cut it, angle your blades, stuff like that. You're the exact type of person that I want to have in the class, especially locally too, for the sole fact that, like, selfishly, we want to grow our subcontracting network to where it's like, by the time we get done with the class, it's, hey, if we get a monster job, you want us to give you a call, or hey, I'm backed up by 3 to 4 weeks in flat glass. You interested in picking up some jobs? To be able to have that resource that's the other reason why we want the academy, is anyone within within Vegas that's auto that wants to learn flat. If you're open to subcontracting work, like this past summer, could have fed you a lot of jobs.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that first group of people that we interact with is the prime focused people that have the highest chance of success. Like someone that already has a huge interest in the industry, already is doing cars, and knows that that's another avenue for them to make money and provide another service for their customers, which makes you then, like, you tint someone's car and then you tint their house. Like, you've now had an extra touch point with them to take care of them and provide a service. The next car they get, who are they going to? They're coming back to you. So like that to me is like the biggest priority. Like, and that's why it's funny. It's kind of like if you think about it, that's what Hermosi did for being able to go to his workshop. It's like qualifying who you actually want for your customer. It's not going to be for everybody. And somebody who has absolutely no tint experience, we can provide some value.
It's not there yet,
but it's not going to be as useful as quickly.
Yeah.
So, and then once we have a larger catalog of online library there, then maybe
you have a beginner course that you know nothing. All right, this will be your initial program.
And now you got this whole catalog to actually reference also. And you've got the
network
calls and whatever that might be available. Like that part to me seems like it makes the most sense. And if we can help other local installers like add that tool to their arsenal, like awesome. We're just going to help grow the industry.
Absolutely.
What it is.
All right. Well, we should have the plan right now, as long as everything keeps going the way it is going, and I don't tear out all my hair. The first week of November, we won't have the goal was to try to run a class before the end of the year. I'm a realist. That's not happening. No. But to have the academy built out and ready to be either walk through and have the podcast studio up, that is still a goal of trying to
by SEMA.
Yeah, by SEMA. So the first week of November, like we've already started the first phase of completely remodeling everything. Next phase is now the build out of the academy, where I just need to get the plans to my contractor to get that ball rolling. Which,
the shop's already like
it is, but our shop is ripped to shreds right now. Things are all over the place. But as everything goes back, everything's being detailed and cleaned, and it's kind of it's a nice fresh reset of like, all right, guys, this is like we've talked about the standard, but like now this is the standard. This is where everything stays. Like this is where we're gonna hold ourselves. If we're gonna bring in other people to learn a trade from us, and then let alone Solar Guard's going to back us and try to they're investing a lot in us to I don't want to say show us off, but show like this is the standard, this is what a select shop is, what it looks like and stuff like that, which has already kind of been set by Modesto.
And it's really smart if you think about it, because now this is an extra tool that they have in their toolkit to provide to Solar Guard dealers that are doing auto the same way they'll send our guys to PPF classes and stuff.
I know. Believe me, no corporation doesn't do something without knowing that they're going to get their return at some point. So I understand what they're doing. I'm all about it. I'm all for it.
I think I don't know. I love the idea of like synergy. How many different ways can this one action benefit? Like, there's not just one outcome. There's like 5 or 6. That's the same thing with the podcast. We're reaching the end consumer, educating them that they can tint their home, helping other window tinters, helping build the community. Like, we're learning from our guests, getting feedback from them. A lot of our guests are other business owners, and like we learn from them from an entirely different business. We just had a flip-flop manufacturer and a hair salon suite owner.
Yeah.
Those are the last 2 guests. They had nothing to do with tint. They happen to be customers of ours, but they're business owners, and like the feedback we got from them was useful for business.
Oh yeah.
And that's another tool that if you're in the window tint business, like business is part of that.
Yeah. No, that's where our biggest growth has been in the past 2 years, is us finally growing up in our business. My dad would buy like a new plotter, a printer, program, computer. And we never really, because I never really thought about it, we never really invested in ourselves, like into our own education and growing ourselves on that aspect. The past 2 years, we've heavily invested in trying to send our guys out to training at different locations, and then let alone invest in ourselves in growing our business on the business side. Like, we only know what we know. Like, we can only tread water for so long while we try to scale and get bigger. Why tread water and almost drown when we can go ahead and find someone that we already follow when it comes down to it, and they are already extremely successful? Like, why have to learn all the hard lessons along the way when you can go ahead and find someone and get mentorship from them, to where it's like they've already learned those hard lessons, and then they show you like, all right, what are these numbers? And I'm like, what numbers? And then it's like, okay, this is why we need to know these things, and then get the breakdown and how something I probably knew in the back of my head a little bit, but how it was explained to me, like, oh, that's why that's so important. Okay. And then you get to look at your business from an outside perspective and realize like, okay, we need to tweak these things. And like, as soon as we did that, that's been our biggest growth in the past 2 years, is finally looking inward at ourselves and then helping ourselves in investing in ourselves, going to either seminars, hiring a business mentor. All of that has helped us tremendously in this past 2 years. So
I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. Yep. Where can people find you? Because I want to help promote you too. Yep. So
on Instagram, I'm the Tint Chick LD.
Okay. And
I'm at the custom shop.
Okay.
All right. You guys heard it. Follow her along. Go ahead and give her a follow. We appreciate you guys joining us on this journey as usual. And until next time.
Thank you. Subscribe, follow her on Instagram.